Hey, video diary. So I've put some entries in where I cited some positive things. And today I was riding on the subway. I go to Times Square to play with this great guitar player who was one of the guys who was holding a seminar that Forrest was attending. Forrest, my son, OD'd. Wow, I don't know what I was going to say. So, riding on the subway away from Times Square, which is its own inexplicable, unnatural phenomena of people jammed in one area, it's a very specific part of New York City. Anyway, on the subway it said, "Make America sober again." It was a poster, and my first thought was like, "Oh, that's great. Let's look into that." And then I realized I was talking to Forrest, who I thought was still alive. And then I realized that my son, the only one who would have carried my last name, that won't happen. My 23-year-old son is dead. At some point every morning, like early in the morning hours, I will come to being awake. Where are we when we're not awake? But I come back to being awake, and somehow my mind searches for what is it, what would prove to me that I'm alive? What thought could I have that would prove that I'm in this life, Because they say for the first 2 minutes after you wake up, you don't even know who you are. You're in a space where you're you, but you're not, you're not attached to everything, all the specifics. So anyway, I keep saying anyway. I mean, I'm the one who's putting these out here. The thought will come to me. It comes every morning. It's Forrest in his casket. His face, his hands, like the pores, And then I remember that this isn't a dream, at least not in the way I'm experiencing it. It is my real story. My story was supposed to be secondary to Forrest's. At this point in my life, I wanted to be a supporter to him. Sophia said he was her go-to guy, like with funny stuff, pictures. Today, walking down the subway, I noticed like a big rusted thing and some melted paint and concrete, and it formed this beautiful melting wreckage of texture. And there was a time where I'd take those pictures. I'd just take a picture of that and I would send it to Forrest. He was such a talented painter. I have some of his artwork, but I haven't been able to look at it. I have a million pictures, but I haven't been able to look at one. And when one pops up accidentally, it's more than I can handle. Because he's really dead. And the thing about my case is that it blindsided me. I remember telling Forrest when he was here visiting and going out to party with his friend, his dear friend, who didn't have any idea of this, probably feels so guilty. Forrest hung out with this friend for most of the week. And they wanted to have a drink in a bar. And I said, yeah, man, but at 23 years old, you should be able to manage, your partying. And as an athlete, to be respectful of yourself. And call me. I'm right up the street. I'll drive you here, there. It's so fine. It's so ironic that he was doing heroin at that time. And I had no idea. And his friends had no idea. His sister, his mother, his close friends who he used to shoot up with years before had no idea. So that's, what's so horrible, because sometimes you expect it with the behavior of an addict. They're close to death. And as I said, Forrest had that period. People could be clean for 20 years and go back on it and die. Oh, I just can't believe I lost my son this way. And he didn't reach out and nobody knew. And I'm not an expert on any of this. The only thing I used to consider myself a bit of an expert on was loving and creating a responsible person. You know, being the parent and creating a person who I gave expectations of responsibility. You know, and have fun. There's so many other ways to have fun than killing yourself by privately shooting heroin. I thought of that guy who did ate fast food for a month. Like, what about a piece where someone gets addicted, to heroin for 1 month and then gets clean, right? Horrifying, right? Because you know in your gut it's wrong. If you're doing heroin, you know in your gut it's wrong. And so on the subway, I realized that sign and the reality that I will never see him again, and that we won't have a relationship where we're both discovering each other, or even me watching him from a distance flourish. That all of that ends with this really tragic ending. And we should not forget that. We should not forget how we lost Forrest. It is important how he lived, and that for 4.5 years he was clean, and that he excelled in his body and his mind and his love for everyone. And then to suddenly lose him to this relapse just seems so wrong. Thank you.